Hello YouTube subscribers and watchers, what's up? This is me, Waves from SlideNote here. In this video, I'm going to talk about method overloading. Now this is a big source of confusion for people if you are beginners, especially with something called overriding. Now we'll be talking about method overriding in a short while. But for now, let's try to understand the concept behind method overloading and try to work out a simple example. So what is method overloading? There is some big statement written over here which says methods within the same class that have the same name but slightly different characteristics, blah blah blah, and that is called overloaded methods. Now the two words that matter out of this sentence is the one which says same class and the other one which says same name. Now think about this. We have a class maths over here, and now what I'll try to do is try to find the bigger of two integers. I'll make a method called max, int x, int y. I'll say if x is bigger than y, then the maximum number is x, otherwise it is y, and return that maximum number. Now what do I do if I want to find the maximum of two numbers which are not integers, but let's say they are doubles in nature? So what do I do? So this is what overloading deals with. You have the same function that you want to perform, but you want to perform it on different data. So for that, you keep the name same by saying max over here as well, just like you said max over here. But what you simply change is the data type here. Instead of int, it says double x, double y, and you do the same thing over here, right? You say x greater than y, it's x, otherwise the bigger number is y. So these are called overloaded methods. In other words, max is an overloaded method. It has two different versions. One for comparing the integers, the other for comparing the double numbers. So now let's try to find out what happens when I say max 3, 5 inside my public static void main. It is gonna call this max because 3 is an integer, 5 is an integer, and the compiler is gonna be like, okay, there are two guys with the same name, but which one matches my type over here? And that is the first one. So it's gonna call the first max. But if you say max of 3.0, 5.0, the compiler is again like, okay, there are two guys with the same name, max over here. Who is 3.0? It's a double. Who is 5.0? It's a double. So where is the guy here who's double, double? It's this guy who can take double, double, and hence I should call this. Now of course, if you call max, 3, 5.0, now what do you think will be called? Now this is a tricky scenario. Now notice, out of the two data types over here, the bigger type is this number, which is 5.0. It's a double number. So automatically Java is going to convert 3 also to a double, and it's going to call this method, because remember, clearly the compiler has an option to either convert 5.0 to 5 and then call the first one, but it will always do the second one, because if you remember the rule of automatic typecasting in Java, it says that you can easily convert something which is small to something bigger, but when you convert something big into something smaller, there is a chance that you might lose some data. So here in this case, if there was 5.4 over here, and if our compiler tried to call the first method, it's gonna lose this 0.4 in the second place, and hence it will not call the first method. Instead, it will call the second method. Now this is the major concept behind overloading, called automatic type conversions and method overloading. So we'll work this out in the compiler on NetBeans or something, and you guys will probably understand what's going on. So let's move ahead and see what's going on further. So when you give two or more methods the same name within the same class, you're simply overloading the methods over here. Now remember, different methods have different something about their parameter lists. For example, like I said, you have different data types, or you can have different number of parameters kind of stuff. So Java distinguishes. So let us try and understand some more specifics about method overloading. First of all, when you have two or more methods that have the same name within the same class, you are simply having a single method which is getting overloaded. That's the concept. Second, different method definitions must have something different about their parameter list. Now remember, it can be different data types, the same number of parameters, or it can be different number of parameters with the same data type, or it can be some combination of them. But remember, there is an exception to that word, some combination. Now we'll be talking about that when we talk about something called ambiguous overloading in Java. So let's further go and see what happens. Java distinguishes overloaded methods according to the number of parameters and the type of parameters. Now that means if you have two methods, the compiler has to decide which method should get called, and that is done by something like this. When you write a code to call the method, the compiler checks if the first argument has the same type as the first parameter, the second argument is the same type as the second parameter, and based on that, if there is no such match found, then Java will try to do some automatic type conversions, just like we discussed previously, where I said that the integer 3 is going to be promoted to a double, and the second method, which is double comma double, will be called small to bigger data type. Now remember, you can also overload void methods, you can overload methods that return a value, static methods, non-static methods, even constructors. Now we'll be talking about all these things in the upcoming videos if you guys haven't heard about static, non-static, constructors kind of stuff. Now what is method overloading in a different way? Now remember, the parameter list must be different for overloaded methods. Now you cannot use return type alone to specify or create overloaded methods. This means you cannot have one method which says int max and the other one which says void max. Just because you're returning an integer in the first method max, the compiler doesn't know whether it should call the max with the void version or should it call the one with the integer version. Now we'll be talking about that as well. Now overloaded methods cause ambiguous invocation leading to compiler errors. Now let's talk about this ambiguous invocation in a little more detail and try to figure out before we work some example out and understand. So here is an example of ambiguous overloading. So what I have is an int max with int x double y. It does something, okay. Now let's not be concerned about what it does inside this method. Let's have another method called int max. Now take a careful look. Here it's double x and int y. Now if I call max of 3.0 comma 5, notice the first argument 3.0 is a double. Second argument is an integer. It's gonna call this one, which is double comma integer. But when I say max of 3 comma 5.0, the first is integer, second is double, it's gonna call this one. But here is the biggest question to you guys. What happens when you put 3 comma 5? What do you guys think about this? Well, is 3 gonna be promoted to a double and this max is gonna get called, or is 5 gonna be promoted to a double and this max is gonna get called? Now this is a compile time error in Java. It's an ambiguous overloading scenario where both the possible methods can be called and the compiler is not sure which one should be executed. Now how to solve this? Simple. Make another max method which takes an int x and int y and you're done. That's all you need to do. But this is one scenario which you must be careful of when you're overloading methods. So now that we have discussed most stuff about methods here, in the next video I'm going to jump into NetBeans and show you guys a simple example of method overloading, and we'll probably try and see what different combinations can arise. Now we'll be talking about the same max method over there. In the meantime, if you guys do like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, let me know your thoughts, like this video, share this video, and let us know which overloading you prefer is better. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a nice day.